Wonderful.
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 I'm going to jump right into our lesson.
An untold number of people who are going to a job today that they cannot stand. They hate it. And I know what that's like because I've been there. I'll tell you the real paradox here. I was going to a job I hated and I was afraid I was going to get fired all the time. That was a long, long time ago before I ever knew any of this material. But there's a lot of people doing that. There's people working in positions where they're not being treated properly. They're just not being treated properly. They're underpaid, overworked. And they're afraid to say anything about it. There's people who are in jobs because they've been in it a long time, they're afraid to quit. Now, do you know, I want you to think that I love what I do. I absolutely love it. And I start doing what I do the moment I wake up. I just love it. I feel I'm one of the most fortunate guys in the world. I'm here in a beautiful studio that we built. Actually, Sandy said, let's do it. We built it. It's 50 feet from my house. This is literally a TV station. We can broadcast all over the world from here. I'm able to get up and come out here. Now, I'm in Toronto, so in the winter it snows. But the walk from the house to the studio is heated. So the second the snow hits, it melts. There's never any snow. I'm doing something I love to do with people I really enjoy working with. If you could work with each one of the people in this company, you would think we had gone out and selected these people. Some kind of a yardstick that would say this one's perfect. We just have an absolutely magnificent group of people. And this is important because this is where I'm spending my days. This is where they're spending their days. And you see, work is made for us. We're not made for work. It's made for us, so it should be something that we really thoroughly enjoy. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. Now, if they don't, they've got to take responsibility for it. You could say, but they don't know. Listen, ignorance is it won't work. I want you to stop and think of what you're doing. Do you really love doing it? Because if you don't, you better start moving. Because this is your life. You only get one bite at the apple. Now think of this for a moment. Let the sand in this glass represent the time of your life. The sand in the top of the glass represents the future. The sand in the bottom of the glass represents the past. When it's gone, it's gone. Now, there's more sand in the bottom of the glass than there is in the top. This could well represent my life. There's a lot more sand in the bottom of the glass than there is in the top in my life. And you know, with the sand timer, I can just flip that over and I change it. Now there's more sand in the top of the glass than there is in the bottom. And I can do that with this sand timer, but I'm not able to do that with my life. No, you got to leave it like it is. And so what are you doing with your life? And you see, the only thing you can really control is right here, right now. You can't control anything in the future, and you can't control the past. It's what's right here in the center. That's the only thing you have any control over. Now, tell me if you'll throw this slide up. Full screen. There it is. Now look at this for a moment. The understanding of the concept behind this slide is vitally important. You'll see down at the bottom on the left, it says bondage. That's where a person literally lives in bondage. A lot of people live in there. The next slide, moving to your right, this is what you call a point of reason. This is where a person gets an idea and they're thinking about it. The next one, just to the left of the red barrier, that's the terror barrier. This is where a person is going to make a move. They're going to crash right through that terror barrier, and they're moving over to freedom. On the Korean Wall in Washington, D.C., carved right into the granite, it says, freedom is not free. And all the names are carved in there who lost their lives in the Korean War way back in the 50s. Now, let's take this a step at a time. Here's where it starts. The X represents the paradigm. The X represents the paradigm. It controls the vibration of the body, which dictates the results we're going to get, X being the unknown factor. Now, there's a power flowing into that person's consciousness. Look at this as yourself for a few minutes. And as that power flows in, we think. And you know we're going to think X-type thoughts. Why? Because they're in harmony with the X. Now, here's the paradox. The X controls the vibration you're in. On a conscious level, you recognize that as a feeling. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. So as long as you think X-type thoughts, they're in harmony with the X, that's comfortable. You're not going anywhere. You're staying in bondage. Now, you know people that stay locked up all their lives. They never go anywhere. They never do anything. They're always earning a little income. They're working on a little job, doing little things with little thinkers. Why do they think the X-type thoughts if they're going to keep in bondage? Because they don't know. They don't know. And that feels comfortable. That's called a comfort zone, a very bad place to be. Now, let's take the person that's leaving there. Where do they go? They come up here, and they start to think of why ideas. What would a why idea be? Well, it might be quit and go off on your own, start a company. It might be quit the job and go and do something you really love, take another job. The why idea is anything that's outside of the box you're living in, which is represented by the X. The why idea is a positive, it's a creative idea. And you've got the ability to think it, and you've got the ability to think about it and play with it. But unfortunately, most people never act on it. They don't get emotionally involved. See, if you get emotionally involved with the why idea, the Y mixing with the X, all hell breaks loose in the vibration you're in. Scares the daylights out of you. Now stay with me here. When a person gets emotionally involved, things really change. Look at this. When they get emotionally involved with the why idea, they hit what's called a terror barrier. automatically worry, fear, and anxiety strike. Now, the worry, fear, and anxiety strike, it's just a terrible state for the person to be in. And they run right back to bondage where they're comfortable. You see why people rarely step out and do the thing they love to do. Only about 5% of our population do that. Worry, fear, and anxiety. It just cripples a person. Now think of this for a moment. I'm going to back this up for a second. The second that person hits that terror barrier, you are activating one of the most powerful electrical systems known to man, your central nervous system. And I'm going to tell you, the worry, fear, and anxiety, it's moving at warp speed, just bing, bing, bing. It's almost like they happen simultaneous. That is a terrible state for a person to be in. And a person will get out of that just as quick as they can, and they do that by going back into bondage. They don't think of it as bondage. They just think of, whoa, I'm glad that's over. I'm back into safety, comfort zone. Now, if you're going to enjoy the life that you're designed to live, you got to go through that terror barrier. I like the way Joseph Campbell put it. He said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. Mikey, I want you to go back to when you left Oklahoma. Was it scary?
It was, I feel like it was equally scary and exciting.
Well, you know, then
It was more scary once I got there and realized that I didn't have any friends there and should I go back than it was actually going there.
you see, I always believe if you pick the right target, it'll scare and excite at the same time. You just mentioned that. It scares you because you've never been there. It excites you because you want to go there. Well, I love the way Campbell put it. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Here's a person, they don't understand, most of them do not understand, but they go crashing right through that terror barrier. Boom. Now, the fear doesn't leave. See, the fear is caused by the X and the Y being in the subconscious mind at the same time. They're not in harmony. That's what causes the chaos. But if you keep impressing the Y over and over and over again, pretty soon the X will change and it's gone. And then your comfort zone is the Y. And then the Y turns into an X and you've got to keep going because there's no end to it. Now, this is the graphic illustration. Thanks, Tommy. Put it down. The graphic illustration of what we're talking about in this chapter. If you're not prepared to handle this and do this, you're going to stay where you are. Everybody does this. When I set goals, if I don't have a considerable amount of doubt, if it doesn't cause fear and excitement at the same time, I don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it. If it feels very, very comfortable, it's not for me. Now, keep in mind, while I'm saying that, I've been reading Napoleon Hill's book for 60 years. And of course, I have a magnificent library of books here and in my home. And I have all the books categorized. They're all on the shelf in alphabetical order by author. I go by author more than I do the title of the book. There's some authors I just really love them. Now, I'm speaking now with 60 years experience, where I went from earning $4,000, knowing $6,000, being in debt all the time, never being out of debt, to being worth millions of dollars, a partner in a company that operates all over the world, that deals with the most beautiful concepts you're ever going to find. I work with some of the most beautiful people that you're ever going to find. So for me to describe this the way I have, there's a lot of experience there. I'll tell you, I got to where I am because I'd listened to somebody that had a lot of experience. When I selected a number of mentors. Now, they weren't people that would sit down with me every day and, work out a plan. Some of them did that on occasion, but not very often. But like Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant were both mentors of mine. I spent 5 years working with them. We all worked in the same office. It was a very friendly relationship, more with Lloyd than Earl. Earl was a little more distant, and Lloyd was one of us. And I learned from them by watching what they did, and then I would follow suit. I've done that with Ray Stanford to start off with, and I did it with Leland Bell Van de Waal, who introduced me to the drawing, the little stick person drawing, which in my opinion is one of the greatest ideas that have ever come down the road. Leland Bell Van de Waal introduced me to Dr. C. Harry Roeder, who taught me a lot of what I know about the mind. He and Val taught me a lot about the mind. Then I started working with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant. Then I met Bill Gove. Bill Gove was one of the greatest public speakers in the world in his day. And I speak nothing like Bill Gove, but Bill Gove taught me how to speak. Bill Gove taught me how to get in platform in front of 5, 10, 15, 20,000 people and be very comfortable. And that was the key. When you go up to speak, just relax, be very comfortable. Let the information flow. And that's what Bill taught me. Now, all these mentors are all gone. They're all passed off into spirit. And they taught me a lot about how to handle this fear and keep going. And if your goal is not scaring you, I would reevaluate your goal. But keep in mind, work is made for us. We should enjoy every bit of it.
Thoughts, takeaways? Are we in the room for information or transformation? Are we in the room for information or transformation? And the only thing we could ever change is our mindset, the skill set, and the service that we do. Think about the only two things that you can actually change: the service you render, the skill set of that service, and your mindset. Mindset, skill set, service you render. I remember my mindset to the service I render, and I developed that skill set. Mine was set, do labor. I found a service to do labor in, and then I developed my skill set. Then I had people telling me all over here, I never see anybody do that. I said, neither did I, until I did it. But I was working with an image, and here we see Bob, and he's talking about him working with images and changing those images. And he's developing himself from the service he renders to the skill set and the mindset. Always in degree of the way we think. The service you render aligns us in perfect proportion to what we do. We look at the centering of consciousness. Centering is like the axle of all things. That's the service you render. Now, developing your skill set and doing that, and your mindset, is the only thing that we could ever do. You can create your own economy. When you blame circumstances, you cannot change. But when you take responsibility, you can change anything. Then we're looking at his mentors, the mentors that he picks. What were they doing? How were they rendering service? And Bob was always focused on developing, going beyond what he was. I'm going to read here The Power of Awareness by Neville. It is only by a change of consciousness, by actually changing your concept of yourself, that you can build more stately mansions, the manifestations of higher and higher concepts. By manifesting is meant experiencing the result of these concepts in your own world. It is vital importance to understand clearly just what consciousness is. The reason lies in the fact that consciousness is the one and only reality. It is the first and only cause substance of the phenomena of life. Nothing has existence for man, save through consciousness. He has of it. Nothing has existence for man, other than the consciousness he has of it. I was talking to some of the guys yesterday, and I said, we're going to work on reprogramming. We're going to work on letting go of programs that are holding you back. You will never know consciousness until it's missing. You never know what consciousness is until something is missing out of that consciousness. We're going to work on letting go, dropping into the subconscious mind. When you practice letting go, you find what you are and what you are not. You begin to find what you no longer want to be. When you're looking, therefore, it is to consciousness that you must turn, for it is the only foundation on which the phenomena of life can be explained, explored, understood, comprehended. It is through a state of consciousness that we can change. If we accept the idea of a first cause, it would follow the evolution of that cause. That cause could never result in anything foreign to itself. That cause could never result in anything foreign to itself. It is the first cause substance, and this is light. All its evolutions, fruits, manifestations would remain light. The first cause substance being consciousness, all that could be observed would be a higher or lower form, a variation of the same thing. In other words, if your consciousness is the only reality, it must also be the only substance. Consequently, what appears to you as circumstances and conditions, even the material objects, are really only the product of your own consciousness. Nature then is a thing or a complex of things external to your mind. And this must be understood. You and your environment cannot be regarded as existing separately. You and your world are one. You and your world are one. Therefore, you must turn from the objective appearances of things to the subjective center of things, your consciousness. If you truly desire to know the cause of the phenomena of life and how to use this knowledge to realize your fondest dreams, in the midst of the apparent contradictions, antagonisms, and contrasts of your life, there's only one principle at work: your consciousness. And this is what's operating. Difference does not consist in variety of substance, but in variety of arrangement of the same cause substance, your consciousness. Therefore, the only thing we could ever look to is ourselves. The world moves with motiveless necessity. By this is meant that it has no motive of its own, but it is under necessity of manifesting your concept, the arrangement of your mind. And your mind is always an arrangement in the image of all that you believe and consent to as true. The rich man, poor man, beggar man, or the thief are not different minds, but different arrangements of the same mind. In the same sense that a piece of steel, when magnetized, differs not in substance from its demagnetized state, but in the arrangement of the order of its molecules. A single electron revolving in a specified orbit constitutes the unit of mechanism. When a piece of steel or anything else is demagnetized, the revolving electrons have not stopped. Therefore, the magnetism has not gone out of existence. There is only a rearrangement of the particles. So they produce no outside or perceptible effect. When particles are arranged at random, mixed up in all directions, the substance is said to be demagnetized. But when the particles are marshaled in ranks, so that a number of them face in one direction, the substance is a magnetic magnetism. It is displayed in health, wealth, beauty, genius. They are only manifested by the arrangement of your mind. That is, by your concept of yourself. The importance of this in your daily life should be immediately apparent. The basic nature of the primal cause is consciousness. Therefore, the ultimate substance of all things is consciousness. First cause substance. The closer we can get to this state, the better our arrangements of the things themselves can be. Are you here for information or are you here for transformation? And the only thing you could ever change would be mindset, skill set, and the service you render. Mindset, skill set, and the service you render. And in. I changed the services I was rendering. Bob said he took a pen and he wrote down that he would have companies operating all over the world, businesses operating over the world. He did it right before he passed away. Had consultants consulting in every country. And all he did was take a pen and decide this is what he's going to write down and work towards that end. We're at our time. Thoughts, takeaways?
So Abraham, the awareness of the bandage and the terror bear, sorry, distraction sometimes my English, but this is really big, Abraham, because I believe all of us that start to have contact with this information want something different, want something better, or even the ones that don't know this information but do it by intuition. But the terror bear is the thing that stays there, and only that's why the only 5% of the people in the world get there, because we feel uncomfortable. Oh no, we don't want this. We go back, fears and everything. But if you want to live a really life fulfilled, you have to be aware of this and go to the pause process and go to the terror bear, and you know that the cave that you are scared of has the prize that you want for your life.
I like what you said. If you want to live a real life, a fulfilled life, you have to go through these steps. If you want to be fulfilled in life, you've got to fulfill it. Fulfill. You got to step into the image of what you want to see. And then work from that reality. We're at our time. Thank you guys. And everyone have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a wonderful day.